Ladies and gentlemen, I have taken the invitation, and many of our viewers were asking me here about the Raila server statement yesterday. I want to humbly request you to sit and let's talk about this issue and give it a critical look. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and also like our video. Here, apart from reporting news, we also we also take critical angles in what is happening in this country. So, this is what Raila was saying yesterday, that IBC had four servers. There was one server in the clouds, which was and I think the one that he was talking about is the one that was being used. One was in Holland. There was one server in industrial area. There was one in Anniversary Towers. And there was another server in Venezuela. Then according to him, is that only one server was actually remitting results to the portal, and that was the server based in Venezuela. I appreciate and we acknowledge the fact that we still don't have locally assembled electronic infrastructure to manage our elections. And so we depend on these multinational companies that are rich on election management to provide with us these services, and taxpayers' money go into this. So what Raila is saying is that being that there was only one server, the one from Venezuela, was the one that was remitting results, that is the one that was altering the figures, or rather was altering the results to then send to the portal. I analyzed about the deafening silence of the commission and how I wish they can come out and give a rejoinder so that we don't consume the one-sided story. Because when you consume the one-sided story without the IBC tech, they are giving doubts to the story. And of course, it's a breeding ground for Kenya Kwanza to dismiss it as fiction. But we just need to know, even a simple thing from IBC is that how many servers did they have? Even a simple thing as that, how many servers did they have? Now, out of this, he's saying the one based in Venezuela is the one that was actually used to alter the results. I need to be very objective here and say, I'm also one person that has been struggling to understand how alteration of the figures, the modality, or rather what was used to decide which polling station I'm going to alter results in, or one, which forms we are going to alter. I still don't know how that decision was reached. However, the narrative that came out was that Raila did not have agents in Mount Kenya. And we have normalized that without agents, figures must be altered. And I've challenged that by saying that Odinga did not have agents in Uasin Gishu. I remember on the election day, I received a call from a policeman who was manning a polling station in Sotik, I remember. And he called me telling me that, Kevin, hapa sioni agents. But still, you're not hearing stories of vote rigging in that region. That is why when you speak about Mount Kenya, you raise eyebrows. It is in public. 2 days before, not election was Tuesday, on Monday, there was agents withdrawal, mass agents withdrawal from the mountain. As to whether it was engineered by hostility on ground or it was engineered by the big boys who are Raila Odinga's opponents, we cannot understand. But in my own interviews, I've listened to interviews from people who worked for Azimio agents at the National Talent Center, at the Jubilee headquarters. That's where Azimio Talent Center was. It is no secret, and they will tell you that there was a problem. I think Kanchori and I think Babu had also attributed that in Mount Kenya, especially in Kirinyaga, in Nyandarua, there was a problem. So it is a coincidence that an area where we are reporting mass withdrawal of Raila's agents is the same area where results alteration are in. We're going to look at that. Now, the other coincidence in this is that when Raila is saying that results were altered from a server that was based in Venezuela, the company, if you trace the company's mathematics, I think they have stuff in Venezuela or something. You will also understand that few days to the election, there was a drama, the JKA drama, when the airport police arrested some foreigners who were from Venezuela with election materials, and it raised eyebrows with a back and forth between the commission and law enforcement agencies. And of course, for the sake of managing the situation, the former IG, Mutiambai, came into action and the problem was solved in the boardroom, which was needed by them. To date, we still don't know what happened. Were they deported? And their critical role in the election, if they were deported and they never played it, who played that role? There's still a lot of things that we can talk about. So I've spoken about those two coincidences. And so I am not an expert in matters IT and election. So I will not want to comment on whether it is true or false there was alteration of the results. But I want to ask 4 questions because it will help us to make a good projection. I've always said that this is a discussion we have and there is nothing wrong talking about this. These 4 questions is just from an outsider, from an observer view, not from a specialist, not from an IT specialist, someone who is on that field. From what you have consumed, you as a Kenyan, and someone who is just a layman, I want you to ask yourself a question. So, if we had these servers being managed, and one is in all those places, election is managed by foreigners. In terms of the infrastructure, they're simply hands-on it. So they're purely in charge. I have seen a discussion and a request by Raila team saying open the server. How can a losing candidate be in a position to access the evidence electronically? Leave alone, forget about Raila. Even in future, if is indeed true that results are transmitted from a server that is not even here, and not even a Kenyan is hands on it, it's a highly guarded secret. And so it means that some few, the foreigners that are managing it, are the ones that work closely with IBC officials, which according to me, it doesn't need a magical science to understand that in that sense, not all the 4 commissioners can know what is going on, or not even a single commissioner can know. Most probably, it's the IT head of IT, the Chris Musando of the 2022, that can have access to everything that is happening by this mathematics. And I'm just trying to get the layout. I know there are different access. They're saying they could not give it to third party, which is IBC. So in future, if we will allow one person from the whole commission, a commission that is paid by taxpayers' money and everything, to be in charge, work with the international bodies, or rather the international electronic election management providers, to deliver an election, don't you think that we stand the chance of experiencing what Chris Musango passed through? During when Chris Musango passed on in 2017, he was from an interview in one of the media houses, and there were stories that even hands were chopped off, and there was an understanding that because he was in an interview the previous night saying that he's in charge of everything and election is going to be free and fair. He was confirming that live on TV, that is in charge of everything and election is going to be free and fair. I understand that could be he's the person that had the passwords to everything on matters election. So on 2017, we lost a man, an election official, purely on such grounds that he was in charge of the IT. This time round, we did not see someone, we did see a victim on IT, of course, and we are happy for that because that one should not be our prayers in every election. But we have an election that was managed purely by foreigners. So if you ask me, the foreigners could be 90, 70, 80% in charge and only us here 30%. In future, would you expect a loser to win a petition against them? Just ask. That is it. And relate that to Maraga. Maraga cancelled because what they did, and that's why I say the good man said, it's not about the process, it's not about the numbers. That's the same thing you're talking about. In an election, so long as there is a iota of doubt, so long as there is a drop of doubt, you raise the eyebrow. Because it's IT you don't understand. Even the lawyers will come and confuse the judges with the big English. So that's the first question. Look at the second one. What I know, we have asked a question. If all this was planned, Kwani, how big was Ruto's hands to be in this? How big? And so, Raila had the intelligence in his side because President Ruto was supporting him. It's true. Why couldn't the intelligence intercept? I know that question has been asked. So let me ask you, if the server is not even inside the country, they're not even in charge of it, how will they intercept? Now, they could know, the intelligence could know that IBC has a server in industrial area, anniversary towers, and Holland, and anywhere. Location they can know, and they can offer security so that something is not vandalized. But on that ground still, how would they know that someone would alter results? What I am saying is this, that the discussion of our election going purely, not purely, but the hybrid system of election is moving the participation of even some relevant government agencies here. I can tell you, it's indeed true that maybe the intelligence was telling Uhuru and Raila they had won. It's possible. But if it was digital, electronic, how could they pass on? Is there a clause within IBC that says that the results, or rather in terms of password giving and who is supposed to access the servers and who, intelligence is involved? I doubt if there is that. I doubt. And that tells you the discussion that maybe Ruto's hands were deeper in that. Another question. Why do you think it is all about Mount Kenya? And According to the results that we tallied, that we were told, Raila got around 1.2 million, 1 million in Mount Kenya. The Mike Yoni, the whistleblower, is talking about 2.6. Now, the baseline here is that this election was purely to be won in Mount Kenya. And in Mount Kenya, there were two issues. I can tell you that Ruto was not going to be shocked if he would lose that election. I still maintain he was not going to be shocked. The win was actually the shocker, but him losing was not a problem. We've seen elections where opposition have been pushed off. But so, Ruto was not in opposition, he was in government. In Mount Kenya, there was already an achievement that was needed to push Uhuru Kenyatta out. And number two, also to show him that he's in charge. Because what Ruto would actually want is, even if he will not win that election, but still get a chunk of support from Mount Kenya, a big support from Mount Kenya, that would help him to mount the 2027 contest. So, the discussion about Mount Kenya, according to me, is huge. It could be huge than what we're simply saying. And what could it be? What could be? What is the coincidence that between Kirinyaga or Nyeri and Uasin Gishu, William Ruto's county, if it is about hostility, where do you think Raila will receive much hostility? Just in terms of hostility of Raila, between Nyeri and Uasin Gishu, where? It should be Uasin Gishu. So why is it? And there is the discussion of Raila not having agents is suspicious. And so even if that, I ask ourselves, are we normalizing the fact that if I don't have agents, we have to be rigged? How about if next time we'll have a presidential candidate who cannot manage the resources to plant agents in all the polling stations? And why are we spending billions to invest in an electronic? Why did we bring the hybrid system of voting? Because the hybrid system of voting was to prevent the malpractices of ballot stuffing and even people altering with the forms. And so Kenya invested billions of taxpayers' money to bring in to use the electronic infrastructure for the hybrid system of election management. But we are still celebrating the fact that rigging could be done because there is no agent. Lastly, let's just talk. Did our election meet the transparency and accountability test? In a scale of 10, just transparency and accountability. Was it transparent? I know it was simplistic as downloading the forms in the portal. Can you account for every vote that was casted? In the scale of 10, how much can you give? I am not against electronic, but I think as much as it is electronic, at the apex of it, because hapa chini, if our agents are managing KIMS kits, people who are in charge of election clerks, KIMS kits, some of them are just Form 4 graduate, Form 4, when you maliza to Form 4. Yeah, I know in the pastoral areas, mostly, they're just people. And we trained people within 1 month, they could manage. The secrecy that is shrouding electronic infrastructure in election in Africa need to be addressed. Otherwise, the more we have that secrecy, we are covering that secrecy with a lot of premises. You know, we're going to interfere with that data, we're going to interfere with this one, we're going to interfere with that one. That secrecy, according to me, will perpetuate electoral fraud even in the future. Because that is where the secret of the Carmagos is. What's your take?